The UPS driver handed me 2 packages, both addressed to our household. I signed for them with the excitement that came with Christmas deliveries, already imagining my 3 daughters squealing over whatever my grandmother sent from her winter home in Arizona. Inside, I found 2 beautifully wrapped boxes, pink paper with silver snowflakes, name tags written in my grandmother's elegant script, one for Hannah, age 7, one for Chloe, age 5, my biological daughters. Nothing for Lily, age 9, my stepdaughter from my first marriage, the girl who called me mom, who lived with us full-time for 4 years, who was as much my daughter as the 2 I gave birth to. I stared at those 2 packages for a long time, my mind refusing to process what the absence meant. Maybe there was another box coming. Maybe Lily's gift got shipped separately. Maybe this was some kind of mistake that had a reasonable explanation. But I knew my grandmother for 34 years. She didn't make mistakes like this. She was precise, deliberate, someone who prided herself on attention to detail. If there were only 2 packages, it was because she intended to send only 2 packages. Lily would notice. She always noticed. I hid the packages in my closet and forced cheer through dinner, asked the girls about their day at school, laughed at their jokes, helped them with homework like everything was normal. Every Christmas decoration in our house, the tinsel, the lights, the tree we decorated together, felt suddenly fake. Lily talked about Grandma's packages arriving soon. She remembered last year's gifts, beautiful matching dolls for all 3 girls. She assumed this year would be the same. "When do you think Grandma's presents will come?" she asked, voice bright with anticipation. I smiled and said probably any day now, watched her face light up with excitement while my stomach twisted. How was I supposed to explain this? How was I supposed to tell a 9-year-old that my grandmother deliberately excluded her because she wasn't blood? My husband Mark noticed my distraction, asked if I was okay. I nodded and changed the subject. Couldn't talk about it yet, couldn't say the words out loud. Saying them would make it real. After the girls went to bed, I sat on the couch staring at our Christmas tree. The ornaments Lily made in art class hung beside the ones Hannah and Chloe created. Family photos included all 3 girls, but apparently in my grandmother's eyes, one of them didn't belong. I called my father the next morning, trying to give my grandmother the benefit of the doubt. Maybe she forgot. Maybe she thought the packages shipped together. Maybe there was some explanation that would make this okay. "Dad, did Grandma mention anything about Christmas gifts for the girls?" He hesitated. That pause told me everything, but I pressed anyway. "I mean, I got 2 packages, but there were only gifts for Hannah and Chloe, nothing for Lily. Did she maybe send Lily separately?" Another pause, then my father's voice, uncomfortable and defensive. "Your grandmother said, she said if she had to buy gifts for all the stepkids, she'd be in the poorhouse." The words hit like a physical blow. Not stepchildren plural, stepchild singular. Lily was her only step-grandchild, and my grandmother was currently at her vacation home in Arizona, the second property she owned for 15 years. She wasn't struggling financially. She just didn't want to buy a gift for a child she didn't consider real family. "Dad, she has 1 step-grandchild, 1, and she's at her winter home in Arizona right now." "I know, but..." I hung up, couldn't listen to whatever excuse he was preparing. My hands shook so badly I put the phone down. Mark's response was almost worse than my grandmother's actions. When I told him what my father said, he sighed like I was being dramatic about something minor. "Tara, she's old-fashioned, you know how she is, maybe just let it go this time." Let it go, like my grandmother deliberately excluding our daughter was something I should just accept. Like Lily's feelings didn't matter as much as keeping the peace with an elderly woman who owned a vacation home, but couldn't afford a 3rd Christmas gift. "Let it go," I repeated, voice dangerously quiet. "She's telling Lily she's not real family. She's telling our daughter she doesn't matter as much as her sisters." Mark looked uncomfortable. "I'm just saying, do you really want to start family drama over Christmas presents? Maybe we can talk to her after the holidays when things are calmer." The suggestion that I was starting drama rather than responding to it made my blood boil. I wasn't creating this situation. My grandmother was, but somehow I was the unreasonable one for refusing to pretend it wasn't happening. "Lily is going to notice, Mark. What am I supposed to tell her? That Grandma loves her sisters more?" He had no answer for that. The jokes came back to me with new meaning. Little comments my grandmother made over the years that I dismissed as generational differences, or old-fashioned views about family. Well, she's not really yours, is she? When I mentioned Lily at a family gathering 3 years ago. It's nice you're so close to your husband's daughter, at Thanksgiving, like Lily was some distant relation rather than the child who lived in my house and called me Mom. Real family is blood, during a conversation about inheritance, said with a pointed look in Lily's direction. I laughed these comments off, told myself my grandmother didn't mean anything by them. She was from a different generation, had different ideas about blended families, would come around eventually. I chose to believe the best because facing the alternative was too painful. But the missing Christmas gift wasn't ambiguous. It was a clear statement: Lily wasn't real family, didn't deserve the same treatment as my biological daughters, would always be separate, lesser, not quite belonging. I spent 4 years building a family where all 3 girls felt equally loved and valued, and my grandmother undermined that in a single gesture. That evening I initiated an impromptu cookie baking session with Lily. Just the 2 of us in the kitchen, flour everywhere, Christmas music playing, forcing normalcy while my heart broke. Lily chatted about school, about her friends, about the Christmas program where she was playing a reindeer. She was so happy, so innocent, completely unaware that her grandmother decided she wasn't worth a gift. I smiled and laughed and helped her decorate sugar cookies while tears blurred my vision, turned away to check the oven so she wouldn't see me crying, wondered how long I could maintain this pretense before she noticed something was wrong. "Do you think Grandma will like these cookies?" Lily asked, holding up a star she covered in green frosting and too many sprinkles. "She'll love them, sweetheart." The lie tasted bitter. My grandmother probably wouldn't even acknowledge the cookies, would eat them politely if we sent them but wouldn't see them as coming from Lily specifically, just generic cookies from the household. When Mark came home, he found us covered in flour, laughing over our cookie creations. He smiled like everything was fine, like I didn't spend the day figuring out how to protect my daughter from the rejection I couldn't prevent. That night, alone after everyone went to bed, I sat in the living room staring at those 2 wrapped packages I pulled from the closet. They sat under the tree now, name tags visible, a glaring reminder of who was included and who was. The anger mixed with heartbreak in a way that left me breathless. I was furious at my grandmother for her cruelty, heartbroken for Lily, who would have to face this rejection, angry at myself for not seeing this coming, for not protecting her better. Part of me wanted to throw the packages away, refused to let Hannah and Chloe accept gifts when their sister was deliberately excluded, but that would punish them for their grandmother's choices. They were children who didn't understand adult cruelty yet. Another part wanted to buy something for Lily and pretend it was from my grandmother. Let her believe she was included, protect her from the truth. But that felt wrong too, teaching her that we had to lie to maintain family connections, that her real position in the family was something shameful to hide. The only honest option was the one I couldn't quite face yet, telling Lily the truth, that her grandmother didn't consider her real family. My father stopped by the next day to smooth things over. I knew the moment I opened the door that my grandmother sent him. He had that uncomfortable expression he wore when he was trying to manage family conflict. "Your grandmother feels bad about the misunderstanding," he started. "It wasn't a misunderstanding, Dad. She deliberately didn't buy a gift for Lily." He looked away. "She just has traditional views about family. She doesn't mean anything by it. She told me she can't afford gifts for stepchildren while sitting in her Arizona vacation home. What exactly doesn't she mean by that? Tara, she's your grandmother. She loves you. Can't you just accept that she sees things differently and move on?" That's when I understood. My father wasn't here to defend me or Lily. He was here to protect his inheritance. My grandmother was wealthy, and my father was her only child. If I made waves, if I refused to accept her treatment of Lily, I would jeopardize his future financial security. "Get out," I said quietly. "Tara, get out of my house, and tell Grandma that if she can't treat all 3 of my daughters equally, she can stay in Arizona permanently." The whispers started within days. Screenshots of text messages began appearing in my phone. Cousins, aunts, extended family members forwarded me my grandmother's messages where she complained about my attitude and praised herself for standing her ground about family values. One message sent to my aunt was particularly galling. "I won't be manipulated into treating stepchildren like real grandchildren. Tara needs to understand boundaries. Another to a cousin, if we start buying gifts for every child someone marries into, where does it end? I have standards. The humiliation of having my family situation discussed and judged by extended relatives was overwhelming. They were all taking sides, debating whether my grandmother was right to exclude Lily. Like my daughter was a theoretical concept to argue about rather than a real child who would be hurt by this. Some relatives reached out with support. A few told me they always found my grandmother's attitude troubling, but most stayed silent, not wanting to get involved, protecting their own relationships with her. I turned off my phone and focused on the girls. Hannah and Chloe still didn't know about the gifts. Lily still thought Grandma's package was coming any day, and I still hadn't figured out what I was going to do. The fight with Mark was inevitable. It exploded 3 days after my father's visit, after I mentioned that maybe we shouldn't go to my grandmother for Christmas. "You're going to boycott Christmas over this?" Mark asked, voice rising. "You're going to punish the whole family because of one incident?" "One incident, Mark, she deliberately excluded our daughter. That's not one incident, that's a statement about how she sees Lily." "So you're going to make it a huge scene instead of handling it privately? You're going to drag everyone into this drama?" The word drama broke something in me. It already is a scene, Mark. Grandma made it one when she sent 2 gifts instead of 3. I'm just refusing to pretend it didn't happen. "What about Hannah and Chloe? They're excited about Christmas at Grandma's. You're going to disappoint them because you're mad." "I'm not mad, I'm protecting Lily. I'm making sure she knows she matters as much as her sisters. Why aren't you angry about this? Why are you defending someone who's hurting our daughter?" Mark went quiet. Couldn't answer that question because the answer was ugly. He was defending my grandmother because it was easier than standing up to her, because maintaining peace was more important to him than fighting for Lily. Lily gave me a drawing the next morning. She made it in art class, a crayon picture titled Our Family in her careful 9-year-old handwriting. 6 figures holding hands, her, me, Mark, Hannah, Chloe, and at the end, carefully coloured in purple, my grandmother. "I made this for Grandma," Lily said proudly. "For Christmas, do you think she'll like it?" I stared at that drawing, at Lily's hopeful face, at the careful way she included my grandmother in the family portrait. The girl my grandmother excluded from Christmas gifts drew her into the family circle anyway. "It's beautiful, sweetheart," I managed to say. After she went to school, I sat at the kitchen table holding that drawing and finally let myself cry. Lily loved my grandmother, wanted to be part of her family, didn't understand yet that some people drew family circles more narrowly than others. That drawing crystallized my decision. I couldn't let this slide. Couldn't teach Lily that accepting disrespect was the price of family connection. Couldn't let her spend years trying to earn acceptance from someone who would never give it. I drafted the letter that night, wrote and deleted a dozen versions, trying to find words that expressed my anger without being cruel, that defended Lily without attacking my grandmother as a person. The idea of sending back the gifts came around midnight, a clear statement that I wouldn't accept unequal treatment of my daughters, that if my grandmother couldn't treat all 3 equally, I wouldn't let her treat any of them at all. Mark found me at the computer, draft number 7 open on the screen. He read over my shoulder, his expression shifting from confusion to concern. "You're really going to do this?" "Yes. It's going to cause problems. Your family is going to be furious." "They're already furious. At least this way Lily will know I stood up for her." He was quiet for a long moment, then carefully, "What if you regret it? What if this creates a rift you can't fix? What if I don't do it? What if Lily grows up thinking it's okay for people to treat her as less than, which regret is worse?" He had no answer for that either. The snow started falling that night, big, heavy flakes that turned our neighborhood into a winter postcard. I stood at the window watching it accumulate, feeling like the storm outside matched the tension building inside. I couldn't sleep, kept going over the letter, refining the language, making sure it said exactly what I needed it to say. Not angry but firm, not attacking but clear. Family is family regardless of biology. My daughter deserves to be treated equally. If you can't do that, then these gifts aren't welcome in my home. Mark eventually found me on the couch at 3 in the morning, sat beside me without speaking, just present. Maybe he finally understood that this wasn't about drama or holiday stress. It was about the fundamental question of whether Lily was truly my daughter or just someone I was temporarily caring for. "I support you," he said finally. "Whatever you decide, I should have said that from the beginning." Those words meant more than he probably realized. Knowing he was with me, that I wasn't fighting this battle alone, gave me the courage to follow through. I volunteered to host Christmas Eve dinner at our house, told my grandmother we would make it easy for her since she just got back from Arizona, prepared a meal and decorated, while my stomach churned with anticipation of what was coming. My grandmother arrived with her usual fanfare, hugged Hannah and Chloe enthusiastically, complimented their outfits, patted Lily's head absently like you would pet a neighbor's dog, polite but distant. The differential treatment was obvious to anyone paying attention. The gifts sat under our tree, my grandmother's 2 packages prominently displayed alongside the presents we bought for the girls. She noticed them immediately, smiled with satisfaction that her gifts arrived and were appreciated. Dinner was tense. I forced conversation, smiled through the small talk, played the good granddaughter while rage simmered underneath. My grandmother seemed oblivious, comfortable, acting like nothing was wrong because in her mind nothing was wrong. She dominated conversation as always, talked about Arizona, about her friends there, about the wonderful holiday season she had. Never once did she ask Lily about school or friends or the Christmas program. She focused exclusively on Hannah and Chloe, my real grandchildren. After dinner, we gathered in the living room. My grandmother positioned herself in the best chair, the matriarch holding court. The Christmas tree lights cast everything in a warm glow that felt false given the tension I was carrying. She raised her glass, wine expensive from her personal collection. "A toast," she announced, voice carrying that authority she always had. "To family, to old bonds and new additions, to joining families halfway and making the best of it." Halfway, the word hung in the air like poison. Joining families halfway, meaning her family and Mark's family merged, but only partially. Some members were fully accepted, others were just additions to be tolerated. I forced my face into a smile that made my cheeks ache. Around me, family members raised their glasses, either missing the implication or choosing to ignore it. Lily lifted her juice glass with the others, not understanding that she was the new addition my grandmother was referring to, the one who didn't quite count. My grandmother caught my eye over the rim of her glass. There was a challenge there, a silent dare. She knew exactly what she was saying and wanted to see if I would respond. I lifted my glass and drank without speaking. Tomorrow I would respond. Tonight I would protect the illusion for the girls' sake. After everyone left, I stood alone in the living room. The tree lights were still on, casting shadows across those 2 wrapped packages. My grandmother's deliberate statement about who belonged and who didn't, sitting there mocking me. The calm I maintained through dinner finally shattered. I picked up one package, felt the weight of it, imagined Lily's face when she realized there wasn't one for her. Imagined years of this treatment, birthdays, holidays, family events where she would always be separate, always less important. Mark found me standing there holding the gift. He took it from my hands gently and set it back under the tree. Then he pulled me into a hug while I finally let myself cry. "Do it," he whispered. "Send them back. You're right, this isn't okay." Those words were everything. Knowing he finally understood that we were united in this gave me the strength to follow through. I waited until everyone was asleep. 2 in the morning, the house silent except for the furnace running and the creak of floorboards under my feet. I gathered the 2 packages from under the tree and carried them to the kitchen table. The wrapping paper seemed too cheerful as I carefully placed both boxes into a larger shipping box. I tucked my letter inside, sealed and addressed to my grandmother. The words I wrote and rewrote until they captured exactly what I needed to say. Family is family. It doesn't matter who gave birth to this child. She is my daughter. If you can't treat all 3 of my daughters equally, then I can't accept your gifts for any of them. I sealed the box with packing tape, the sound loud in the quiet house. Addressed it to my grandmother's home address in Arizona, where she would be returning after the holidays. Marked it returned to sender with grim satisfaction. Mark appeared in the doorway, watching silently. When I finished, he helped me carry the box to the car. We stood in the driveway in the falling snow, and he squeezed my hand. "You're a good mom," he said. The post office opened at 8. I was there at 8:05, the box in my arms, hands trembling but steady enough to sign the shipping slip. The clerk asked if I wanted insurance. I declined. The contents weren't valuable, just a statement that needed to be made. Driving home, I felt lighter than I had in days. The decision was made, the action taken. Whatever happened next was out of my hands. I did what I needed to do to protect my daughter. The girls were eating breakfast when I returned. Lily asked if Grandma's package came yet. I told her gently that there was a mix-up with the shipping, but it would all be sorted out soon. Not quite a lie, but not the full truth either. She would be disappointed, but she would survive, and she would never know she was deliberately excluded. Hannah and Chloe asked about the presents they saw under the tree. I explained that I sent them back because there was a mistake with the order. They were disappointed but accepted it without much fuss. Children were resilient that way. My father called that afternoon. His voice was tight with anger. "Your grandmother called, she got your package, she's extremely upset." "Good. Tara, this is ridiculous. You're causing family drama over Christmas presents." "I'm establishing a boundary. Lily is my daughter. If Grandma can't treat her equally, then she doesn't get to play favorites with the others." "You're being unreasonable, expecting her to change her views at her age." "I'm not expecting her to change. I'm just refusing to participate in Lily's exclusion. There's a difference." He tried to argue, to guilt me, to explain that I was throwing away family relationships over something small. But it wasn't small, it was everything. It was about whether my daughter mattered. I hung up and blocked his number. Then I sat with Lily building gingerbread houses, laughing at our messy frosting, creating memories that mattered more than my grandmother's approval. Something shifted in Mark after he watched me mail that package. He started paying more attention to how people treated Lily, calling out small dismissals I was fighting alone for years, standing beside me rather than trying to keep peace. That evening he pulled me aside while the girls were playing. "I'm sorry I didn't understand before. I kept thinking you were overreacting, but you were. You were protecting her from something I wasn't seeing." The apology meant everything. Knowing he finally got it, that he noticed the pattern of exclusion I was fighting against, made me feel less alone in this fight. "I just want her to know she belongs," I said, "that she's not less important than her sisters. She does belong, and anyone who can't see that isn't worth having in our lives." The package arrived in Arizona 3 days after Christmas. I tracked it obsessively, knew the exact moment it was delivered to my grandmother's vacation home, where she extended her stay. My phone stayed silent that day. No call from my grandmother, no text, no outraged voicemail, just silence that was somehow louder than any argument would have been. I imagined her opening the box, finding the gift she sent, now returned, reading my letter, the words I chose so carefully to explain why I couldn't accept unequal treatment of my daughters, her face when she realized I was serious about this boundary. Part of me expected an immediate reaction, anger, defensiveness, maybe an attempt to justify her position. The silence was unexpected, left me wondering what it meant. Was she processing, planning her response, too angry to speak? Mark found me checking the tracking information for the 10th time. "Let it go," he said gently. "You did what you needed to do. Whatever happens next is up to her." Days passed with that strange quiet. No calls from flying monkeys in the family trying to smooth things over. No text messages from my grandmother attempting to explain or justify. No contact at all, just a peace that felt both relieving and unsettling. I went back to normal routines, took the girls ice skating, helped with homework, made dinners and read bedtime stories. Life continued without my grandmother's presence, and it was easier than I expected. Lily stopped asking about the Christmas package. Hannah and Chloe forgot about the presents they briefly saw under the tree. Children moved on quickly, their worlds filled with immediate concerns rather than family politics. I started to accept that this might be permanent, that my grandmother might never contact me again, that I chose my daughter over my extended family, and that was okay. Sad, but okay. Some relationships weren't worth maintaining at the cost of another person's dignity. The package arrived on a Tuesday afternoon, small, nondescript, addressed in my grandmother's handwriting. My heart started pounding before I even opened it. Inside were 3 gift boxes, identical wrapping paper, 3 name tags in my grandmother's script, Hannah, Chloe and Lily. Equal sizes, equal presentation, no differentiation between biological and step-grandchildren. There was no note, no letter explaining her change of heart or apologizing for the original exclusion, just 3 equal gifts, a statement without words that she heard what I said. I stood in my kitchen holding those boxes, crying for the second time this Christmas season. Not tears of anger or hurt, but something more complicated. Relief that Lily wouldn't be excluded, grief for the fight that was necessary, exhaustion from the emotional battle. Mark came home to find me surrounded by tissue paper and wrapping supplies. She sent new gifts, I explained, for all 3 girls, equal. Did she apologize? No note at all, just this. We both understood what it meant. Not an apology exactly, but an acknowledgement, a shift in how my grandmother would treat Lily going forward. Christmas morning, the delayed version we planned after the original holiday drama, was different, better. The girls woke up excited, raced downstairs to find the 3 equal packages from their grandmother. Lily tore into hers with the same enthusiasm as her sisters, found a beautiful art set inside, high-quality supplies, thoughtfully chosen, exactly the kind of gift my grandmother gave when she was paying attention to a child's interests. Hannah and Chloe received equally thoughtful gifts, books for Hannah who loved reading, a science kit for Chloe who wanted to be an astronaut. All 3 were equal in value, in thought, in the love they represented. I watched Lily's face light up as she explored the art supplies. She looked at me with pure joy, not knowing the battle that was fought for this moment, not understanding that her grandmother's love needed to be demanded rather than freely given. Grandma picked the perfect gift, she said, already planning what she would create. Hannah looked up from her books. Grandma always knows what we like. Always, as if this equality always existed, as if Lily was always included without question. Later that day, after the excitement calmed and the girls were playing with their new gifts, I stood at the window watching them. Lily's laughter blended with her sisters', their joy equal and uncomplicated. I pulled out my phone and sent my grandmother a simple text. "Thank you, the girls loved their gifts." Her response came an hour later. "They're all my grandchildren." Not an apology, not an acknowledgement of what happened, but a statement of how things would be going forward. Lily was family now, fully and without qualification. The battle was won, even if the war left scars. Mark joined me at the window, wrapping his arm around my waist. "You did the right thing," he whispered. I nodded, watching Lily show her sisters a drawing she made with her new supplies. "You'll never be treated like half of anything again," I whispered, though she couldn't hear me. The fight was worth it. The family drama, the uncomfortable conversations, the stand I took against someone I loved, all worth it for this moment of equality. My grandmother might never fully understand why I sent those gifts back, might never acknowledge that her initial exclusion was wrong, but she learned that treating my daughters unequally had consequences, that I would choose my children over family peace every single time. And in learning that lesson, she gave me and my daughters something more valuable than any Christmas gift, the knowledge that I would fight for them, always, no matter who I had to fight against. That was the real gift I gave Lily that Christmas, not art supplies or equality from her grandmother, but the message that she mattered enough to fight for, that she belonged fully and completely in our family. The rest would work itself out in time, or it wouldn't. Either way, Lily would know she was loved, valued, and worth defending. That was enough.